I knew the minute he walked into that meeting room with his 2 white veneers and cologne that smelled like trust fund douche number 5. I was screwed. Not metaphorically. Not even professionally. I mean cosmically. Like the universe took one look at my almost 9 years of thankless back-end architecture, patching every corner of a codebase held together by duct tape and Jira tickets, and said, let's spice it up for her. So there I sat, Friday at 4:03 p.m., a venti iced Americano in hand and a bulletproof smile on my face, while VP Brand New Biceps slid a corporate condolence letter across the table like he was gifting me a damn puppy. I just think it's time for fresh vision, he said. You've been amazing, really, but this next phase needs a different energy. Translation, you're not flashy enough. You don't post thought leader garbage on LinkedIn. You didn't laugh at my Slack meme about grind set. I stared at the paper, all clean Helvetica and fake gratitude. No warning, no negotiation, just a hollow thank you for 8 years and 11 months of my blood-swollen eyeballs and sleepless deployment nights. I turned down a job in Seattle for this place. Stayed when my dad got sick because remote wasn't culture-aligned. I onboarded 4 separate DevOps leads who never lasted past a quarter. Hell, the current infrastructure still runs off scripts I wrote while pumping in antibiotics for a kidney infection. But none of that mattered, because this guy could talk in buzzwords and wear a vest over a button-down. I understand, I said, my voice sugar-dipped poison. Thank you for the opportunity. I handed over my laptop. No raised voice, no scene, no tears, just calm. Because that MacBook, bless its smug aluminum soul, had a little heartbeat of its own. A heartbeat that would quietly keep pulsing for the next 10 minutes. And then, well, quick favor, if you're enjoying this story even a little, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the team more than you think, and it makes sure you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, this one goes places. Anyway, as they escorted me to the elevator like I was a shoplifter and not the woman who literally saved their platform during the 2020 meltdown, I started counting in my head. Not out loud, just silently, with every click of my heels on the polished floor. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. By 10 Mississippi, that system, my system, would quietly begin what I lovingly referred to in my private notes as the graceful collapse. Nothing malicious, no ransomware, just reality. I built it too well, too personally. It needed me in a way no one else seemed to understand. Or maybe they just didn't bother to ask. See, last year, while they were obsessing over slide decks and TikTok funnels, I was rewriting the core. Not for glory, not for them, for the system, for stability. I built a dependency routing framework that worked like a vascular system, but one that used rotating keys synced through my daily logins. No login, no continuity. No continuity? Well, the patient doesn't die right away. It just forgets how to breathe. And now, it was already forgetting. I stepped outside, the sunset bleeding orange across the parking lot. I didn't look back, just got in my Civic, pulled out slow, and turned off notifications. They didn't fire a developer. They fired the lungs, the brain, and the spine. But they wouldn't realize it until the lungs wheezed, the spine cracked, and the brain screamed in timeout errors. By the time the security guy, Todd or Tom or whatever failed gym membership energy his name carried, pressed the elevator button, the process was already humming. Nothing flashy. Just a quiet little timer nested inside a harmless maintenance script I'd updated 3 months ago during an unauthorized optimization sprint. Fancy way of saying I cleaned up their mess while they were too busy LARPing as product evangelists on LinkedIn. This wasn't malware. I'm not an idiot. I didn't write anything that could be pinned as intentional sabotage. What I left behind was the kind of failure that looked natural, like maybe the cloud sync hiccuped, or someone pushed an unstable patch, or that overloaded dependency finally cracked like we all knew it would. Except none of those things were true. What I actually did over the past year was re-architect the entire system from the inside out. Not because they asked me to. God no. They were still duct taping dashboards together and bragging about agile excellence, while I was on my 5th consecutive 2 a.m. troubleshooting sprint with a Red Bull and a wrist brace. I rebuilt the core, introduced a dynamic routing layer so the data didn't just move, it adapted, made it beautiful, elegant. almost organic. But the elegance came at a cost. It needed daily authentication seeds. My seeds, rotating on a 24-hour key cycle only I had the generator for. No seed? No sync. No sync? Slow bleed. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to expose all the cracks they'd painted over with investor glitter. And I documented it. Oh, I documented everything, buried in the codebase like fossils. The comments were technically correct, just obscure. You'd need to understand the structure to decode the logic. Not one of them would. Not VP teeth. Not CTO napkin diagram. Maybe Adam from QA if he squinted hard enough. But Adam was on paternity leave. Bless his heart. I never told anyone because I knew. I knew the second they dangled that fake promotion and started using words like optics and fit that I wasn't long for this circus. I wasn't angry when they fired me. No, angry was 2 promotions ago when I built an internal automation tool that cut down deployment time by 38%, and they gave the credit to some dude named Brent who once pronounced sass like sauce in a client call. This was just math. They fired me on a Friday at 4 p.m. That meant the sync seed would expire by Friday at 11:59 p.m. They'd roll into Monday thinking everything was fine, until it wasn't. Until the dependencies started echoing empty responses. Until the investor demo loaded with half-baked visualizations and timestamp data from a week ago. Until the front-end asked the backend a question and the backend replied with a shrug and a 504 error. And then they'd scramble. Oh, how they'd scramble. They'd blame the junior devs. They'd blame caching. They might even blame AWS like that ever helps. But they wouldn't think to blame themselves for firing the only person who understood the wiring diagram behind their magic trick. No, I didn't sabotage anything. They did. They sabotaged themselves the minute they decided charisma mattered more than competence. The minute they believed software ran on vibes and pitch decks instead of structure and sweat and 18 months of buried commits no one bothered to read. I didn't break their system. I just stopped holding it together. Saturday morning hit like any other. Cheap coffee, cold kitchen tiles, and the phantom muscle memory of checking Slack before remembering I was off-boarded. That word, off-boarded. Like I was some detachable IKEA drawer instead of the damn carpenter who kept the whole dresser from collapsing. Cute. VP Veneers was probably sipping top-shelf tequila somewhere, grinning like he'd just slain a dragon. In his mind, the dead weight was gone. Fresh blood was coming in Monday to pitch our flagship platform to a room full of billion-dollar suits with yacht-sized expectations. I imagined him polishing his keynote slides, swapping out my architecture diagrams for stock photos of smiling developers, and buzzwords like synergistic pivoting and scalable empathy. Meanwhile, I sat in my studio apartment with a laptop older than my last vacation, watching the HR email roll in like a fart in a quiet church. Subject: Final payroll confirmation and NDA reminder. I opened it with the kind of grin you give a telemarketer who calls during dinner. Hi, employee ID number 5447. We wanted to confirm that your final paycheck has been processed and should reflect in your direct deposit within 1 to 3 business days. Also, a gentle reminder that your non-disclosure agreement remains active. Please refrain from sharing any confidential information or trade secrets. Thank you for your service to company name. Bless their hearts. Like I hadn't read every clause of that NDA 3 times during lunch breaks. Like I didn't know exactly what it covered and, more importantly, what it didn't. I didn't take a line of code. Didn't steal a single doc. What I built wasn't a secret. It was just undocumented genius. And the NDA protected their ideas, not mine. Process design, that was mine. My logic, my structure, my weird habit of embedding function traces in Fibonacci comment chains. If someone else could reverse engineer that mess, I'd buy them a steak dinner and hand them my keyboard. I closed the email, opened my notes, and spent 2 hours wiping every trace of access backup from my external drives. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I didn't want a lifeline. I wanted clean hands. Because I knew that phone was going to ring. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Sunday, I rolled into a little co-working spot downtown. $180 a month, coffee that tastes like anxiety and burnt almonds, and enough startup energy to trigger a seizure. I claimed a corner table by the window, plugged in and let the quiet hit. My fingers hovered over the keys, but I didn't open any code. Just email. One new message. Subject: reaching out. Contract opportunity. It was from Maya over at Kernelworks, a rival platform we used to jokingly refer to as the dollar store version of us. Except Maya was no joke. She was smart, ran lean, asked the right questions. Hey, just checking in. We're looking to do a small overhaul of our data sync engine. Nothing urgent. Thought of you. Let me know if you're around. I smiled. Not urgent. Yet, I replied, available for a quick chat Monday or Tuesday. Let me know what works. I leaned back, sipped my third terrible coffee of the morning, and watched the light change on the floor. Monday would be chaos. I could feel it in my bones. The same bones that once crouched under the server room ductwork at 2 a.m. while the C-suite slept. They'd notice the unraveling. They'd panic. And when they reached for the emergency rope, I'd already cut it, folded it, tucked it into a drawer with a sticky note that said, maybe don't fire the architect next time. Monday, 9 a.m. They thought they had it in the bag. Investors were already in the Zoom lobby, sipping espresso in glass-walled offices, waiting to be dazzled by the next big thing. VP Veneers had on his tightest button-down and that self-satisfied smirk he probably practiced in the mirror. His hair? Slicked back like he just walked off a yacht named Series B. He clicked, Start Presentation. And right away something was off. The platform dashboard stuttered on screen, like it couldn't decide if it wanted to show confidence or collapse. The graphs loaded partially. A few bars appeared. Others just spun. One investor leaned in toward his webcam and asked, is this a screen share issue or? Then the flickering started. Data sets blinked in and out like bad fluorescent lighting. Animations froze mid-transition. The product lead fumbled with his mouse, frantically refreshing. Nothing changed. VP tried to salvage it. Looks like a minor latency blip, just cache warming. Totally normal during first load. But he was already sweating. His cursor moved like a nervous rat. Investor number 2 chimed in, why is the revenue panel timestamped 5 days ago? A pause. The kind of silence that smells like blood. VP glanced sideways at his product lead, who looked like he wanted to fall through the floor. That can't be right, he mumbled. We pushed fresh data Sunday night. Another investor, older guy with a voice like gravel and money older than Jesus, cut in. Show us the live version, please. That's when the real fun started. The dev team rushed to switch views, switch from the sandbox to prod, from shiny smoke and mirrors to the actual live instance. The screen blinked, and blinked again. Then, nothing. Just a white window with a spinner. After a full 10 seconds, a red bar crawled across the top. Error 504. Protocol handshake timeout. VP's eyes darted like prey in a thunderstorm. He turned his mic off, hot mic fail, and barked something at the team off camera. What the hell is a handshake timeout? Get DevOps on the damn line. Product lead looked like he aged 10 years in 2 minutes. It's not us, he stammered into the camera. We tested all weekend. There must be a gateway issue. Maybe the cloud instance isn't spinning correctly. Investor number 3 adjusted her glasses. Your platform's backend is timing out on a handshake. That's not an instance issue. That's architecture. Boom. That word architecture hit like a torpedo. Back in the co-working space, I sipped my latte and refreshed Reddit. No notifications. Yet, I imagined them huddled in that meeting room, breath fogging the windows, eyes wide. Someone would be running logs. Someone else would be checking Git history. And the moment they realized the codebase hadn't been touched since Friday, that the last stable commit came from me, time-stamped, tagged, airtight, they'd feel it. The fear. Because what they were staring at wasn't a bug. It was absence. The elegant decay of a system that no longer had its architect. 10:13 a.m. Their Slack was already on fire. The board had been looped in. One of the junior board advisors had messaged the CTO directly. What are we showing these people? Why isn't it working? Who owns the live deploy path? CTO's reply was simple. Emily did. followed by another message. But we let her go. VP Biceps was already foaming at the mouth when the CTO wheeled the whiteboard over and started drawing circles like they were performing some ancient ritual to summon stability. "Check the last deploy," he barked. "This has to be a bad push. Someone must have overwritten the environment config. Maybe the intern touched the pipeline again." Intern? Cute. The junior devs, God bless their caffeine-rattled souls, were flipping through logs like they were defusing a bomb, while the product owner looked ready to quit, cry, or crawl into the nearest HVAC duct. And then, in the middle of the chaos, one of the quiet backend guys, Eli, I think, spoke up. The last commit. It's not recent." VP snapped. "What do you mean not recent?" Eli looked around, eyes wide. "It's from last Thursday." Emily pushed it. "There's been no changes since then. No merges. No deploys after that." The room went quiet. Real quiet. You could hear someone's Outlook pinging in the background like a death knell. Then Eli added, "There's a weird function string in the core pipeline I've never seen before." He shared his screen. Line 614, nested in a harmless utility module. "C.rotate, mode equals ghost." VP squinted. "The hell does that mean?" No one answered. Eli said carefully, "It's not in any of the documentation. I tried tracing the call, but it forks through like 4 abstracted wrappers. And there's no fallback behavior. It just loops if the seed fails to validate." CTO looked like someone had punched him in the lungs. He turned to legal. "Do we still have any access to her repos? Any shadow backups?" Legal started flipping through the NDA folder like a raccoon in a dumpster. "She didn't take anything. No data breach. NDA holds. But if that function is part of her internal process design, she owns the logic," CTO finished grimly. Meanwhile, the Zoom call with investors was imploding. Half of them had already dropped off. The ones who remained were asking dangerous questions. Was this system even production ready? Why weren't there redundancies? Is this a vendor issue or internal? And VP? He was sweating through his shirt, barking at DevOps, at the product lead, even at the poor guy trying to refill the Keurig machine. They were spiraling. I didn't even need to see it. I could feel it. I just sat there in the co-working space, kettle whistling behind me, calm as a glacier. Made my tea Earl Grey heavy on the bergamot and opened my email. One unread message. Not from KernelWorks this time. It was a LinkedIn message from some startup in Austin asking if I did short-term scaling consults. Cute. Then the phone buzzed. Unknown caller. I didn't answer. Let it ring out. Then it buzzed again, voicemail. Another buzz. Text this time. "Emily, we're having a situation. Could you give me a quick call?" "Brad?" "VP. Brad. First name basis now." "Huh?" I sipped my tea, set the phone face down, and opened a clean terminal window. Not to fix anything. Just to watch. The emergency board meeting was called for 3 p.m. sharp, and by 2:42, they were already screaming at each other like feral cats trapped in a filing cabinet. The CEO was back early from his Aspen retreat, tan lines still fresh around his eyes and fury radiating off him like solar flares. "You're telling me," he growled, voice low and dangerous, "that we just lost the entire Monday demo, our Series C pitch, because of one person?" No one wanted to answer. Legal had already scoured the NDA, the HR logs, even the damn Slack threads. There were no breaches, no crimes, just absence. The code wasn't broken. It simply no longer obeyed. Like a loyal dog that suddenly stopped coming when called, because the only person it answered to had been kicked out of the house. The board members weren't stupid. They were pissed, confused, but not stupid. They knew something had gone sideways, and they were trying to figure out whose head was about to roll. The CTO, normally so smug he practically levitated, looked like he'd aged 5 years in a day. He paced, palms open, muttering things about critical access nodes and personalized key rotations, while the whiteboard filled with squiggly diagrams no one could decipher. Then the question came. Simple. Devastating. "Who?" the chairman asked, dead calm. "Signed off on this system ref actor?" Silence. "VP Biceps." The man with all the confidence and none of the competence froze. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again like he was rebooting from factory settings. I assumed it was an incremental update. Just optimizations, he mumbled. CEO's eyes narrowed. You assumed. I didn't. She never. There wasn't a presentation. Of course there wasn't, the dev lead said quietly, from the corner of the room. He looked like he hadn't slept since Thursday. His hands were shaking, but his voice was solid. Emily rebuilt it. Over the last year. No one told her to. No one helped. But the whole backbone, that's hers. The room went still. She refactored the sync engine, rewrote the dependency tree, added the fallback logic we never fully understood but kept passing QA. I think she even built a heartbeat listener that ties into auth rotations. None of us could replicate it. We just trusted it worked. You trusted it? The CEO snapped. Because it did work, the dev lead snapped back. Until we fired the person who made it work. VP tried to speak. We can fix this. No, you can't, Legal interrupted, finally slamming the laptop shut. There's no path forward unless she comes back. This isn't a tech issue anymore. It's operational suicide. Another board member asked, what happens if we don't get her back? CTO answered, voice flat. Best case? Platform degradation over the next 2 weeks. Worst case? Full architectural collapse. Every failover node is tied to her seed logic. And how long do you think she'll take to respond? The CFO asked quietly. VP opened his mouth again. She's not picking up. The dev lead cut in. We've all tried. I texted her, too. Nothing. That's when the CEO finally broke. Get her on the damn phone, he growled. I don't care what it takes. Title, salary, equity. I want her back in this building tonight. But it was already too late. Because what none of them realized, what Brad, the VP, still didn't get, was that they weren't just trying to bring back a developer. They were begging for oxygen after setting fire to their own lungs. The call came just past 7:30 p.m. Long enough for them to exhaust all options, short enough that they still thought they had leverage. Unknown number. Columbus, Ohio area code. I let it ring halfway through, just to let the universe savor the irony. Then I picked up, cool and slow, like someone who didn't have an entire multimillion-dollar platform spiraling into chaos on their kitchen table. Emily, the CEO said. His voice was tight, artificially calm in the way people sound when they're trying not to let desperation leak out of their molars. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I stirred my tea. Depends who you ask. Long pause. He cleared his throat. Listen, we've had some technical issues. And we realized, well, we'd very much like to bring you back. Short-term consulting. Very flexible. Generous hourly. Just to help us stabilize things. I didn't say anything at first. I let that generous echo around a bit. Generous like they were doing me a favor. Like I was some stranded lifeboat bobbing in the wake of their sinking Titanic. I see, I said finally. You want me to fix the system you fired me for building. He chuckled too fast. No, it's not that. Look, there was obviously a miscommunication and Brad he didn't fully understand the architecture at the time. But we're correcting that. And we'd like to work with you again, if you're open to it. Translation. We burned the bridge, then realized you were the one holding the blueprints for the only way out. Another pause. I let the silence do what silence does best, unravel confidence. He tried again. The board is authorizing full rate flexibility. You name it. Whatever you need to come in. Get us back online and I'm considering other offers, I said, sipping. Dead quiet. That landed. I could feel him recalibrating. The silence on the other end was the sound of a man realizing for the first time he no longer controlled the tempo. That's understandable, he said eventually. Of course, we'd be grateful for any availability you might have. If there's anything we can do to support, I'll let you know, I said. And then, because I'm not cruel, I'm precise. I added, oh, and just a heads up, if you haven't already, you might want to check your fallback job scheduler. That one tends to choke without the rotation anchor. He made a sound, half cough, half oh God, and I ended the call before he could thank me. I closed my laptop and glanced at the KernelWorks email blinking in my inbox. Subject line, proposal ready for review. I didn't open it yet. Not because I was hesitating, because I wanted to enjoy this moment a little longer. The moment where the panic finally flipped sides. By Tuesday morning, the story had already cracked open and bled all over the industry blogs. Tech Insider's headline hit first. Company demo implodes mid-pitch, $120 million round in jeopardy. Then came the ThinkStack piece. Sources. Internal ref actor led by terminated engineer. Board demanding explanations. I nearly choked on my toast reading that one. Terminated engineer. Like I was some malfunctioning limb they lopped off and now couldn't walk without. By noon, investors were quietly pulling out or hitting pause. The board's official statement was a word salad of miscommunication, system irregularities, and operational restructuring. Translation. We fired the one person who kept the lights on, and now we're holding a candle and praying for Wi-Fi. My phone buzzed again. Maya, KernelWorks, hey, we'd love to show you something. You free this afternoon? I didn't reply right away. I just looked at the message and let it sit there, like a loaded card on a poker table. 2 hours later, I was walking into their office. Glass walls, clean desks, a faint scent of real coffee and ambition that hadn't yet been soaked in VC delusion. Maya met me at the door in jeans and a hoodie, not a Patagonia vest in sight. She smiled like someone who'd already seen the chessboard shift. Thanks for coming. I nodded. You said you wanted to show me something. She led me past the main bullpen and into a glass-walled war room. On the whiteboard, scrawled in blue dry erase, were 2 words in all caps. Migration strategy. I stood there for a second, letting the implications wash over me. This wasn't a job offer. This was positioning. Maya sat down at the table, slid a folder across to me, old school, paper and all. We started talking to 2 of company's smaller clients last week. After the demo flop, they reached back out. But they don't want to just switch vendors. They want continuity. You know what that means. I flipped the folder open. The first page was a term sheet. Compensation. Equity. Title, Chief Systems Architect. And beneath that, right of first refusal on all new infrastructure builds. Is this contingent on me replicating the system? I asked. Maya shook her head. No. This is you redesigning it from the ground up, your way. No legacy trash. No patchwork. No Brad. I smiled, slow and deep. So you want the spine, not the skin. We want the soul, she said. You are the soul. She didn't need to say more. I didn't need a desk, or an HR packet, or a welcome to the team cupcake. I wasn't here to join a company. I was here to become the architecture they'd all been pretending they could buy off a shelf. I pulled a pen from my bag, clicked it, paused. This, I said, tapping the whiteboard, will need 2 migration paths. One soft, one surgical, depending on how long it takes company to implode. Maya grinned. Already thought of that. We got to work. And somewhere, across the city, Brad was probably still pacing conference rooms, trying to explain to the board how a 5-line function called seed, rotate, mode equals ghost, broke their future in half. Let him pace. The sun poured through the 11th floor windows, catching on the glass edges of whiteboards littered with active builds, sprint diagrams, and post-it notes with acronyms only 3 of us actually understood. I stood there in my new office, minimalist, quiet, mine. The badge clipped to my belt had weight, not from plastic, but from the fact that it opened every door in the building. Literally and figuratively. Behind me, the hum of conversation rose and fell. Engineers, ops leads, product managers, my team. Most of them didn't even know the full story. Just that I had come in, solved a problem no one else could touch, and built something better in the wreckage. The company's logo was different. The tools were cleaner. But the rules? Still written in blood, just better disguised. My phone buzzed. Investor update. Series B confirmed. $140 million. Led by... I didn't need to read the rest. Same firms that once cheered for my old company. Same suits that sipped espresso while my work failed on screen because no one left behind knew how to speak the language I'd written it in. They weren't stupid, they were just hungry. And now their money was sitting in my architecture, backing my people. There was a soft knock at the glass. Lucas, one of the junior engineers, new hire, smart, still green enough to ask real questions, peeked in. Hey, quick thing, he said, sheepish. I was going through the seed logic on the new framework you pushed. Why does it use a delayed sync instead of immediate auth ping? I looked at him, tilted my head just slightly, smiled. To see who's paying attention. His eyes widened like he understood but also didn't. That's the point. You don't give away the whole map. You build systems that test the ones navigating them. He nodded, scribbled something in his notebook, and left me to the silence again. I turned back to the window. The skyline looked different from this side of the river. Cleaner, sharper, like it was finally aligned the way it should have been all along. My old company? Still reeling. They'd spun the press, blamed third-party dependency instability. But insiders knew. Hell, I'd seen the screenshots. Their product lead was gone. CTO resigned. Brad? Still there for now, clinging to relevance like a man hugging a shipwreck. He'll be gone before Christmas. They tried to call me again last week. Left a voicemail saying they wanted to revisit a leadership conversation. I didn't return it. I just forwarded the message to Maya with the subject line, Christmas bonus material, and that was that. I never wanted revenge. I wanted recognition, but they couldn't give it. Not until I took away the illusion that they never needed me in the first place. Final thoughts? They thought I was a coder. I was the system. And now? I write the ones that don't crash when you fire the architect.